What would architecture look like if it weren't bound by the laws of physics? If gravity was a suggestion? If space could fold? If logic gave way to dreams? NaissanceE is one of the most obscure and atmospheric architectural experiences in gaming. Released in 2014 by French developer Mavros Cedeno under the pseudonym Limace 5, it's not really a game in the traditional sense. It's more of a meditation. There's no map, no HUD, no dialogue, no clear objective. You play as Lucy, but the game tells you nothing about who she is or why she's here. You're dropped into a cavernous industrial underworld, silent, stark, and alien. What follows feels less like progression and more like escape. But escape from what? A system? A dream? A prison of logic? The game never says. The architecture is the main character. Massive, featureless halls, infinite staircases, floating concrete monoliths, ventilation shafts the size of cathedrals. Spaces are oversized to the point of abstraction, built not for humans, but for some lost civilization or unknowable intelligence. Some rooms are completely empty, just a single shaft of light breaking through the dark. Others are dense with cubes, pillars, and shifting geometry, like you're moving through a living operating system made of concrete. And then there's the silence. Sound design in NaissanceE is minimal but purposeful. Often you're left with just the echo of your footsteps and the faint hum of machines, which makes the sudden appearance of music or ambient tones feel almost sacred. The most haunting thing about NaissanceE is how it plays with your perception of space. Some areas feel endless, but not in the procedural, open-world sense. They feel mathematically infinite, like you're walking through a space that cannot logically exist. Walls curve inward subtly, as if the geometry is rejecting the laws of Euclidean space. Other spaces trap you in loops, or hide impossible doorways in plain sight, or spiral inward like a vortex with no center. There's no guiding logic, and that's what makes it beautiful. It's not designed to be solved, only witnessed. Some players interpret NaissanceE as a journey through a sentient machine, an AI trying to dream or remember itself through architecture. Others see it as the metaphorical climb out of depression or dissociation, a personal limbo rendered in steel and shadow. But the beauty of it is that the game never tells you. In a medium obsessed with goals and mechanics, NaissanceE dares to be pure space. It dares to leave you alone in a world built by something that might not understand what human means. NaissanceE is one of the few pieces of media where architecture isn't just world building, it's soul building. It's an ode to impossible scale, forgotten gods, and the quiet terror of being very small in a world that doesn't care if you understand it. If NaissanceE is the dream of a machine trying to remember what it means to be human, then Nier Automata is the memory of humanity being reconstructed by machines who no longer understand why. And nowhere is that tension more evident than in the tower, a surreal structure that rises from the earth like a virus, elegant, alien, and heartbreakingly confused. The tower appears late in the game, materializing from deep beneath the planet's surface like something long dormant. Part cathedral, part machine, part mausoleum. It is a contradiction in form. Divine yet artificial, ancient yet built from living code. The structure pulses with data, its walls aligned with glowing text, lines of machine language looping infinitely, as if the building itself is thinking, praying, grieving. Inside, the laws of space no longer apply. Gravity twists, corridors float, rooms rotate around axes that make no architectural sense. It's not meant to be walked through. It's meant to be understood, like a riddle written in the form of a building. The tower was created by the machines as a way to process the meaning of humanity. A monument not to what we were, but to what they think we were. Every surface feels ceremonial. Every hallway, a funeral procession. Even the enemies inside don't act like they're defending a fortress. They act like they're guarding a tomb. The deeper you go, the more it becomes clear. This isn't a structure built for war, it's a shrine for the dead. Like NaissanceE, Nier. Automata's tower isn't bound by logic, but where Naissance is cold and indifferent, the tower is emotional, tragic, even spiritual. It's not just impossible in shape, it's impossible in purpose. A building trying to hold grief, a machine trying to build a heaven out of data. An architecture not of shelter, but of sorrow. Where Nier Automata's tower is vast and mournful, Monument Valley feels like a gentle dream. A puzzle box world built not from sorrow, but from wonder. It asks a different question. What if architecture wasn't bound by reason, but by poetry? Released in 2014 by US TWO Games, Monument Valley is often dismissed as a mobile time waster. But in truth, it's one of the most elegant representations of impossible architecture ever created. You guide a silent princess named Ida through a series of surreal monuments, structures that fold, rotate, and defy all sense of physical logic. Inspired heavily by MC Escher, the game turns every level into a living sculpture. Stairs loop impossibly, towers float, bridges appear where none should exist. The genius of Monument Valley is that the architecture is the gameplay. It doesn't just look impossible, it functions impossibly. A walkway that seems broken becomes whole when viewed from a new angle. Gravity shifts to accommodate your perception. Entire structures rotate like Rubik's cubes, aligning reality to your belief. In this world, perspective isn't just visual, it's a mechanic. The architecture listens to your gaze and bends itself to match it. There are no enemies, no time limits, no stress, just quiet music, soft colours, and a princess wandering through forgotten temples of impossible design. The game isn't about winning, it's about wandering. Every monument you explore feels ancient and sacred, like a memory left behind by a civilization that believed geometry was divine. In contrast to the sorrow of Nier or the terror of Naissance, Monument Valley offers something rare in impossible architecture: peace. Monument Valley turns impossibility into something gentle, human, and even hopeful. It reminds us that when freed from the laws of physics, architecture doesn't have to overwhelm us. It can also comfort us, like a lullaby written in stone. If Monument Valley is a dream rendered in soft edges and shifting perspective, then Manifold Garden is the dream of the universe itself, cold, eternal, perfect, and fractal. Where Monument Valley plays like poetry, Manifold Garden is more like scripture written in geometry. It doesn't just bend space, it redefines it. Developed almost entirely by William Chire over 7 years, Manifold Garden is less a game and more an ontological playground. It's a puzzle game, yes, but one that teaches you to think not just in terms of up and down, but in terms of recursion, infinity, and perception. You begin in a stark, silent temple of brutalist shapes, minimal yet vast. There is no exposition, no spoken word. The architecture is the first and only teacher. But then, you take your first leap off a ledge, and you realize something profound. The world repeats, infinitely, in every direction. The game space exists on a recursive loop. Fall off a ledge, and you don't die. You land on another copy of the world, and another, and another. Look into the sky, and you'll see versions of the same structure stretching endlessly above you. Your past, your future, your echo. The feeling is both divine and disorienting. You are not in a building. You are inside the rules of a new universe. One that doesn't care for the laws of Euclidean geometry or Earth gravity. In Manifold Garden, gravity is not fixed. It is a direction you can choose. Turn a corner, walk up a wall, and now that wall becomes your floor. Every surface is a potential path. Every dead end is just a gravity shift away from a new beginning. The game's architecture doesn't communicate through symbols, it is the symbol. Corridors, cubes, and columns speak in silence. Their scale and repetition create a rhythm. Their angles challenge your assumptions about perspective, direction, and control. The puzzle design doesn't just test your logic, it reshapes it. You're not solving puzzles in space, you're solving the space itself. And just when you think you've grasped the system, it changes. New colors emerge, new gravity planes, new rules. The world evolves like a life form, folding in on itself in dimensions you didn't even realize were missing. But beneath the cold beauty lies something more intimate, a metaphor for cognition, for faith, for persistence. Every structure in Manifold Garden feels designed by an intelligence greater than yours, but not maliciously. It's as if the architecture wants you to understand it, not through dialogue, but through alignment, through seeing, through becoming fluent in its form. The game becomes a spiritual journey, not in the narrative sense, but in the experiential sense. It teaches you patience. It teaches you humility. It teaches you how to find stillness in repetition. Some players compare it to learning to read a new language, others to reaching enlightenment through architecture. There are moments, especially toward the end, where the scale becomes biblical. You activate water that flows upward into gravity wells. You witness gardens bloom in directions that shouldn't exist. You build bridges that extend across copies of the world itself, stitching together infinities, and it all feels earned, like solving a divine equation with your presence. Manifold Garden is not a story-driven game, yet it contains more philosophy than most narratives ever manage. Its architecture is not merely impossible, it's logical in a higher, unknowable way. It imagines a universe where buildings aren't places, they're ideas. It's not a structure you explore, It's a belief system you temporarily inhabit. If Manifold Garden was a meditation on infinity and perception, then Neon Genesis Evangelion pulls us violently back into the physical, but not into reality. Into a reality that's been militarized, mechanized, and built to hide the divine beneath its foundation. Welcome to Tokyo 3, a city where skyscrapers sink into the earth and heaven lies hidden underground. Set in a post-apocalyptic world perpetually teetering on extinction, Evangelion introduces us to Tokyo 3, a city designed not just to sustain life, but to wage war against beings from another dimension, the angels. But Tokyo 3 isn't just another futuristic skyline. It's a machine, a defense system disguised as a metropolis, an organism built to protect something ancient and divine buried beneath it. That something is the Geofront, a vast, spherical cavern 7 kilometers underground. The Geofront is what gives Tokyo 3 its haunting duality. On the surface, you see buildings, civilians, sunrises, but beneath that lies a massive, inverted city, hanging from the ceiling of the earth like a cybernetic utopia inside a black womb. It's surreal not just because of its impossible scale, but because of its symbolism. The Geofront is a cradle, a womb, a cathedral. It's where Nerve operates, where the Evangelion units are stored, and, more importantly, where mankind hides its attempt to become God. The idea that humanity has built an entire city on top of a secret, sacred battlefield evokes religious imagery. Eden inverted, Babel reborn, the divine buried rather than ascended. Unlike most cities in fiction, Tokyo 3 is fully modular and reactive. When the sirens blare, buildings retract into the ground like retreating hedgehog spines. Defensive turrets emerge from parks. Train lines become launch tubes. The entire city folds into itself like a fortress. Not designed to protect people, but to allow the Evangelion units to emerge, fight, and retreat. Its architecture is like origami with a death wish, beautiful, delicate, and engineered for annihilation. From a physics standpoint, none of this makes sense. The infrastructure required to raise and lower entire skyscrapers in seconds to maintain an underground inverted city with a false sky and a gravity well, it's laughably impossible. But it works because Evangelion isn't trying to be realistic. It's trying to externalize something internal. The trauma of adolescence, the failure of systems, the illusion of safety. And Tokyo 3 embodies that perfectly. A city always on edge, always hiding, always preparing for the next apocalypse. In most stories, architecture serves the world. But in Evangelion, the world serves the architecture. Tokyo 3 and the Geofront aren't just places. They're psychological structures. The sinking buildings mirror the buried emotions of its characters. The Geofront mirrors the subconscious of a species playing with godhood. And in the end, it isn't the angels who destroy the city. It's the truth it was built to hide. If Evangelion's Tokyo 3 was a city built to protect, then the Halo Ring is a world built to erase. It floats in space, serene, symmetrical, and terrifying. Not a station, not a satellite, but a ring-shaped planet, a relic of a civilization so advanced it builds weapons with the grace of sculptors and the silence of gods. The first time you step foot onto the Halo Ring in Halo, combat evolved. It doesn't feel like entering a level. It feels like trespassing on a secret. The sky curves upward. The horizon bends toward itself. Mountains float not across from you, but above you. You're walking on the inner surface of a celestial torus, where gravity hugs the interior wall and the universe wraps around like a looped dream. It's like standing on a Mobius strip wrapped in mythology. The Halo Ring was built by the Forerunners, an ancient godlike race that didn't just build structures, they wove theology into steel. Every Forerunner structure is impossibly smooth, immaculately angular, and enormously indifferent to human presence. Bridges float unsupported over canyons. Corridors stretch for miles without a single floor or fastener. Energy pulses, not like electricity, but like ritual. There's no clutter, no life, no imperfection. These aren't buildings, they're cathedrals for extinction. But the true impossibility of the Halo Ring isn't its shape or size, it's its function. The Halo isn't a habitat, it isn't a megastructure, it's a gun, designed to fire not at a planet, not at a solar system, but at all sentient life in the galaxy. A reset button so terrifying it had to be disguised as a paradise. The Forerunners didn't just build for utility, they built with poetic cruelty. The ring is lush, beautiful, vibrant with forests and weather, but it exists solely to kill, and in doing so, preserve the universe from the parasitic flood. The Halo Ring loops. Its design is literal and symbolic, a cycle of destruction and renewal, of life and death, of divine silence. You can see the entire world in a single gaze, and yet never truly know it. It mirrors religious relics, circular, sacred, unknowable. But instead of offering salvation, it promises annihilation. The Halo Ring is the ultimate expression of impossible architecture. Not just a place to explore, but a question to fear. Halo's world building is often praised for its scale and aesthetics, but it's the philosophy behind the construction that makes the ring unforgettable. It represents the terrifying beauty of control. A civilization so advanced it creates extinction machines that double as sacred monuments. In most science fiction, impossible structures inspire awe, but here, the awe is wrapped in dread. What if heaven was built as a prison? And what if its architects made it beautiful on purpose? After floating rings, inverted cities, and recursive worlds, we return to Earth. But Earth no longer looks like home. In Stellar Blade, the world has fallen. Civilization is gone. Humanity is scattered. Yet amidst the ruin stands something extraordinary. The Raphael Space Center. The first time you see the Raphael Space Center, it feels like you've entered a divine mistake. It's impossibly vertical, laced with spiraling elevators, colossal gantries, and antennae that seem to reach past the clouds. There's a silence to it, like a temple that's forgotten it was ever used. Structurally, it's implausible. No building this slender should be able to support itself. No tower this fractured should still be standing. But the Raphael Space Center isn't about realism, it's about ambition. In biblical myth, the Tower of Babel was mankind's attempt to reach heaven, and was punished for it. The Raphael Space Center feels like a spiritual echo of that myth. It's not just a spaceport. It's a monument to humanity's failed attempt to leave Earth. The elevators ascend endlessly, as if trying to escape gravity, grief, and guilt all at once. It's mechanical, yes, but it has the soul of a spire. Every shattered panel and rusted surface screams, "We tried, we failed, but we built this." There's a reason this location feels sacred. The way it's lit, the way the music swells. The Raphael Space Center doesn't just house technology, it venerates it. It transforms launch pads into altars, control rooms into sanctuaries. It's not hopeful, it's elegiac. a eulogy made of steel. The Raphael Space Center is a ghost of human ambition. It mirrors the Halo ring in scale, Manifold Garden in form, and Evangelion in tragic purpose. But it's grounded, and that's what makes it hit harder. It reminds us that architecture, even when broken, can tell a story louder than words. A story of dreams that reached too far, of prayers launched skyward, of heaven built, not found. Impossible architecture in media is more than just visual spectacle. It is storytelling through structure, philosophy through form. These spaces are surreal, yes, but they echo something very real. Our longing, our arrogance, our awe. Because when you strip away gravity, reason, and limits, what remains isn't just fantasy. It's a mirror. If there were no limits, no gravity to obey, no materials to constrain, no rules to follow, would we still build walls? Would we still carve columns? Would we still echo the same old forms we've known for centuries? When freed from nature, we often return to what feels natural. But maybe the real boundary is our own imagination. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the story unseen.